I can't hear anything.
Who is that? Who said?
That was Ron, and
Oh,
Now I can.
now you can, yeah, it's because I turned on,
Thank
our
you.
mic.
Good morning, Ron. Morning, Tom. We're gonna get started here because we do have a quorum and we have folks that have to leave a bit early. So given our agenda, I think we can push through it. Since we do have a quorum, we can entertain a motion to accept the minutes as provided by Jamie from our meeting that was combined with the commission.
And it's also our May 25th meeting as well.
That's true, because we didn't vote on that, so we have two sets.
Yep.
Do we have to vote on them individually?
I
or
think we can take them as a whole
Okay.
if everyone's good with that.
okay.
If everybody's all right with that, we have one motion from Anton. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom. Any discussion? I don't have any.
No, I thought it was a good meeting.
We'll talk about the outcome of that meeting as part of our agenda today. Hearing no further discussion, do you want to take a roll call?
Sure. I'll start in person. Rick,
Yes.
Anton,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Thomas.
Approve.
Thank you.
Super. Now that can get entered into the record. The agenda, Jamie had sent out, and I think the first item is on
It's solar.
on the solar utility scale solar ordinance that we're gonna get an update on where we stand with that. Go ahead, Jamie.
Sure. So we've had a couple meetings with ordinance committee and also the town council. So the ordinance committee voted at their June 16th meeting to move the revisions forward to the town council. They had their first reading last week. They voted to move it to planning board for their review and approval. I'm hopeful it will get on the next planning board agenda. I think there was enough time between the council meeting and the plan, although I do know planning board has a long agenda, so maybe it's gonna be pushed, you know?
That won't take long on the agenda.
He was just setting the agenda, but when did you submit it?
Well, it was last week. Because it was
Um,
after the council
So
meeting.
it would be the August 8th meeting.
So that would be good. And then hopefully get it back to council for their first reading or for their second reading, public hearing and vote at their first meeting in September, if all goes well.
Super, that's awesome. So we
So,
can wrap that up, and then I suspect we'll probably have some further opportunities for development coming that way. So I think that's super.
so here's hoping.
All right, well, sounds like it's going forward, and that's all good. And I think now you want to give us an update on the EV.
Yeah, so in the packet that was sent out with the agenda, there is the revised language or revised formatting, I guess. Before Jay left, he took what this group had pulled together and revised it to fit the basically our zoning ordinance. So that was provided to you in your packet. There's the entire section was for off-street parking regulations was included. I kind of grayed out the areas that don't pertain to EV charging. So at the bottom of the document was where EV charging fits in. And I would say that the requirements aren't all that different from, or what was in there is not that different from what was, what this group has talked about. I think Jay, he did remove a couple things that weren't really pertinent to us, kind of streamlined the definition section a bit. And then again, made it so that it fit our existing formatting for our zoning ordinance. So I don't know if folks have had a chance to take a look at that, if there are any comments or thoughts about that. We need to get this in front of the ordinance committee. So, you know, getting kind of this group's blessing on it would be the first step in moving that forward.
Super. Anybody have any discussion items on that? Without reading it again, I'm trying to think. I don't think any red flag came up to me. I think the only thing I have, my concern is the timing of getting it moved forward, because now it goes to ordinance, then it'll go to town council for first reading, then it's gonna go to planning board, and then it's gonna go back to town council, public hearing.
We've still got at least a couple months ahead of us.
But that's okay, I think, because we can talk about ways in which we can demonstrate the effectiveness of this potential ordinance if we were to add something into a GMO waiver letter that we want to talk about next on our agenda.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think the experience with Costco and the fact that they want to do minimal EV charging, I think that just is
Fuels the fire.
exactly,
In my
gives some
opinion.
really good evidence or reasoning for why this ordinance is needed in Scarborough. So,
Exactly, exactly.
Unless there's something glaring in there, I just think we should go with it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm tired of just wasting time with this. Let's go.
I agree.
so I will work on getting this. I'm not sure if the ordinance, well, I think we're too late at this point to get it on their August agenda. So we'll be looking at September for them. Because I
So theoretically, we probably won't have this in solid form by until December,
December.
which is okay, I guess. Well, it's not okay, but
it's
it
just,
is the way it is.
it's the process,
It's
yeah.
the process, yeah.
These ordinances aren't retroactive, are they?
No,
No.
no.
So if the ordinance is not in place by
At
the
the time
time
of
they're doing
application.
something, then you're just out of luck.
And
That's unfortunate.
And it just segueing into kind of the Downs GMO, they're still gonna have to go through their full planning board process. So the sooner this ordinance gets in place, the sooner they will be subject to the EV charging ordinance when they go before planning board to get approval for their whatever build out they're able to do in the town center, downtown area.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably start conversation at the planning board on the, both of those. The prior one as well,
Mhm.
just to keep it shepherded through. I think generally the board will be supportive.
All right, the one thing I do need to actually talk with Angela about in terms of the EV charging ordinance is our definition of redevelopment. And so right here, we have it says redevelopment means the excavation or grading of existing parking areas in excess of some % of the existing parking area. So we need to come up with what percentage we want to say is going to be considered redevelopment of a parking lot.
Well, what would trigger, any development of a parking lot triggers town?
So that's new development. We're talking about redevelopment.
Right.
So yeah, what triggers it going to planning board?
Yeah,
It's pretty low.
Yeah.
so I think at that point, I say if redevelopment goes to planning board, that's when the ordinance kicks in.
Okay.
I mean, that's the whole purpose of the planning board.
Right, exactly.
Is oversight of the ordinance.
That works for me. I'll work on that language. All right. So next, reporting out on the June 13th meeting with Conservation Commission, where we discussed the Downs GMO waiver or exemption request. So Rick, I don't know if you want to,
I never heard from Robin, and I didn't reach out to Robin.
or Randy, you mean?
Have you heard Randy?
That's okay.
Why do I have Robin in my head? You know, to summarize that, a great deal of time was spent back and forth with Mr. Bacon. And of course, I think that was because people wanted to get a sense of what their thoughts were and what it was going to look like. I would propose that we draft some sort of a letter that says that while we can't say yes or no on the waiver, we would strongly recommend if they pursue any waiver of a GMO that we require the Downs to any impervious parking area must be framed work similar to the draft EV ordinance that we have going through. I also think that we should, as part of our comp plan, it says in the built environment, we should be looking at buildings that have some sort of a building standard like LEED or that. And I would say that for any new building with a residential component in it, which means a mixed use, a multifamily, or a single family home, be constructed, do not have to go through the certification, but need to meet the requirements of passive house. And the reason why I say don't have to gain the certification, it's costly, it takes time,
Yeah.
and it's just a barrier.
I just
But
didn't see
I
you going
like
all the way
the
to passive
standards.
house. I just didn't see you going all the way to passive house. That's what
I-
I was grinning about.
I like this standards of passive house. I originally was thinking going to make them build it to the 2021, but I was looking at the energy code. But there's no change in envelope, really significant change to the envelope between the 15 and 21. We're at 3 ACH, but with passive house, you're at 0.6. And I feel like that is enough motivation for anybody that is doing a 0.6. They're gonna go all electric in building. And so that's, I don't want to make a big menu list of things they have to do to make it complicated. I just think they need to follow a draft EV ordinance and build to the standard of passive house. That's, to me, that's my input. And I welcome yours.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question? So just to make me more knowledgeable about this process, so for passive house, if they're not going through like a full certification, which I understand, how do we know they met that standard?
By modeling and
So they'd have to go through like a commissioning kind of a,
well, they have to, number one, their plans have to indicate
okay,
that these are gonna meet the standards. They do the modeling based on all the components.
okay,
And then it's put together, and if it meets, then it gets blessed as a passive house, but you pay all the way along the line.
right,
But the standards are there. So now they're gonna have to present the idea that in their description of the project, they are gonna have to state that this will be built in accordance to the passive house standards.
I'm just trying to figure out how we enforce that. So if they say that and then our code officers would need to review it for that, or is it actually like a third party?
They're gonna have a third party
agency
saying that,
says
yes,
stamps
this meets,
something? Okay.
right.
That's
But I'm just saying they don't have to go to the
Okay.
expense of paying for the
actual
certification.
certification. Got it. All right.
How much,
That's helpful.
just out of curiosity from my education, how much cost does that add to the building process?
I wish I had a full answer to that, but looking at some of the multifamily housing that's going up with the passive house standards, because of the different trade-offs you do, I don't want to throw it out right now. I don't have enough information, but it's not significant enough that that, in my opinion, should be an alarm center.
And with multifamily, that's one of those circumstances where they will see a return on their investment.
Absolutely.
Because they're not like building it and then selling it, they're building it and operating it. So they will.
And a
have lower
homeowner,
operating
and a
costs.
single family home will now have a home that is EV ready and have solar ready. And in some cases, it makes, if they're gonna go electric, it makes so much sense to them to put solar on at that time because they're all gonna run it off their own grid. So to me, I would recommend that to Randy.
Randy's actually joining us.
Oh, hi, Randy.
Hi there.
I didn't see when she came in, so I don't know where I was in our.
It was at the beginning of
Oh, good.
this discussion.
So that's just my input. And Deb, do you have any thoughts that you want to share or any ideas that you might?
I mean, I would love to see that. Again, I was just not.
It's
expecting
becoming more and more
passive house.
popular out there.
Yeah, and I think the technologies have caught up to passive house, that's not a huge lift anymore. My brain was still stuck in 1984 or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, this is a compromise where they're allowed to build infrastructure faster than what they anticipated and want. And the rationale to me is we haven't been able to get our ordinances caught up to our comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
yeah.
And by them accelerating their build out is counter to the town moving forward with our new comprehensive plan. So I think it's kind of it meets them halfway.
So they would have to do what we would anticipate requiring them to do in the future.
Correct,
But if
as
they
we
wanna
get our
do it
ordinances
now, they need to,
revised, yep. And by the time that GMO is available, the state will not have moved to the 2021. So they're still bound by the 15, and you know, we can do better than that.
Randy, do you want to provide a quick overview of the items that the Conservation Commission had discussed, including as part of the memo?
Yes, and Jamie, can you all hear me okay? Great. And thanks. I just thought it would be the responsible thing to show up at this morning's meeting.
Oh, glad and welcome.
For the
Thanks for coming.
conversation. And I'm really grateful for Jamie's coordination and support of both of our committees and moving forward on this. One of the things, and then I'd also encourage Jamie to add in based on all the different moving parts, because as you mentioned, Rick, we're balancing trying to establish new ordinances with the pace of this approval of the approval discussion of the GMO waiver. We also spent as a commission some time talking about the open request or discussion or curiosity among members of the council around how do you define what a public benefit is and how can you measure it objectively. So we came up with a list of indicators of public benefit, which would include a range of things around stormwater, green space, trail connectivity. And then we also have some things that I'd love to share with you, Rick, and the committee that talk about percentage of parking spaces available to that are EV ready or available to electric or hybrid vehicles. And I think there might be some solar in here. But I think one particular important piece that we learned in that joint conversation was that the green space that the developer is generously contributing does not seem to be contiguous green space, and that the ideal of having contiguous green space rises to a higher level of importance for the Conservation Commission. And then we also want to look at how trails are connected to other trails that exist in town. So how are the non-motor vehicle trails connecting from the property to other spaces in town? So I'll pause there. I think we'd like to move forward, of course, in a joint memo. I believe that we need a little bit more discussion as a commission, not so much in our formal meetings, but in between our meetings so that we can come together with you all on this memo. And Jamie, what am I missing? What do you need to add here?
I think you kind of hit it. So knowing the kind of the scope or the goals for both the commission and the sustainability committee, a draft memo I think can be pulled together and circulated for kind of review based on April's email from last week. Obviously she's not here today because that she's away. But she seemed to think that, with getting a memo to the town council within the next month or so would be sufficient because it sounds like they're not anticipating any kind of vote until September at the earliest.
So that gives us a chance to work on it and then put a draft together for this committee. And maybe the joint committee, maybe meet with the draft and ratify it amongst us and send it forward.
Yep.
Um,
And I know at the town council workshop a couple weeks ago where they just were introducing kind of the language from the GMO waiver, it was really the council discussing the document itself. There was no presentation or any discussion with the developer. They did say that there would be a public workshop before any vote happens. So I don't know that workshop has been scheduled yet. I would expect it would be in August, but I know it's hard to schedule things that time of year because people are out of town and things like that. So I think that's why they were anticipating no vote until September at the earliest, because they do still want a public process for it.
If I may add that I think most of us at the commission meeting heard about this workshop and it was then that we got a sense that this was moving along on maybe a faster pace than we had originally anticipated. And knowing the work before us, we were originally looking at perhaps taking the month of August off for our meeting, but the commission members decided, no, this is important. We want to meet.
That was my next,
moving forward.
that was my thought when I looked. I said, oh, maybe we can take the August meeting off, but maybe that's not appropriate at this juncture.
Or if we have a joint meeting with the two groups.
Yeah, maybe that would be better and do it, because I was planning to be gone that last week of August and into Labor Day.
So the commission meets again on August 8th, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
So
Would we be able, would you, and I'm saying we, but I really mean you, given the input from Randy and our committee, would you be able to at least put an outline letter together that might be able to encompass both of those, both committees' points?
yeah, and I think, yeah, I'm happy to kind of do the outline / first draft and then leave it to you and Randy to kind of finalize for submission to the council, if that sounds good.
And the
And
council would meet towards the end of September?
so they go back to 2 meetings a month in September.
Okay, so it'd be the second and
I think, yeah,
first
given
or third.
that they haven't had the workshop kind of with the developer and getting public input on the content of kind of basically what the town's consultant had put together for recommendations. There is a draft order that the council reviewed at their,
I saw that, I read that draft, well, I tried to read all the draft.
yeah, there's a lot of whereases.
Yeah,
So I think that would be kind of what the council would be discussing and getting public input on. And so they would have to schedule that and then plan to and I don't know that they'll necessarily vote without kind of a first reading of that council draft. I'm not sure how that process will work.
oh,
with
that's
council.
interesting. So I thought, I would assume they would have had 2 votes on it.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe they will have a first reading and then refer it to public hearing also. And so.
And there's no other oversight committee that would see that after if there was a first and second, they wouldn't go to planning because it has nothing to do with ordinance.
Right.
So, yeah, then they could just move forward.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of meeting early in August, and it's just my preference. You guys can certainly weigh in, meeting in August and reviewing a draft and then working on it so that it'd be ready for the first week of September when we can hand it to the council.
And I would say if you're able to get it out prior to that council meeting so that they're able to look at it
Before.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So probably planning to send it to council before the end of August.
Yeah, okay, so that further is a good reason to meet with, have a joint meeting again.
I'm not available on the 8th.
Okay.
Don't not meet that.
Well, and
day
you can
because
always
we-
provide input. I will go out ahead of that meeting.
This is a Monday, right?
It would be a Monday evening.
Yeah, that would be fine. with me.
Randy, are you all right with having another joint meeting?
Oh, the
That would
8th,
be fantastic.
Board, right?
planning board meets on the 8th,
Yeah. Well,
but that's okay, you guys can meet without me.
no, I don't like to meet without you. No, I'm serious. I think you added a lot to less.
Yes, I agree.
I can't miss the planning board.
Let's do it another night.
What about the, I'm gonna pull up.
What's your thoughts of, what about your commission moving their meeting to the following Monday? Would that be a doable thing, Randy?
It's possible. And we can ask. Yeah, we can certainly ask.
You can do is ask.
Yeah. Randy, if you want, I can send out, I can take the pulse of the Conservation Commission and see if how many would be able to meet on the 15th instead of the 8th.
Great,
All right.
thanks.
And I would be available, I think, on the 15th.
Oh, so that would open up 2 people being able to join that meeting.
And what about Ron and Thomas? Would you guys be able to meet on the evening of the 15th?
15th is better than the 8th.
Okay,
This is September,
August.
August. I think so, yeah.
Randy, what time do you guys usually meet? Are you at evening?
At 6, yes, in the evening.
Yeah, right now I'm putting a hold on my calendar for the 15th.
All right. The one other item that is somewhat related to this, and Randy mentioned it when she was giving her overview of the Conservation Commission, was there was also the week that we had our joint meeting, there was also a Counselor Corner Live session that focused on conservation and sustainability. And one of the items that came out of that meeting was a discussion of public benefit and what constitutes public benefit. Anytime a developer comes before the council requesting a contract zone, which basically is a request for the town to allow them to develop a type of use that is not allowed given the current zoning, they can get an exemption called a contract zone. Part of that, as through that process, they need to demonstrate some type of public benefit. Like if the town allows this development to happen, this is some way the town will benefit from it. But public benefit isn't well defined. And so it's for a contract zone, but it's also for the GMO waiver request as well. They need to show public benefit. So one item that that Councillor Anderson and Seiler thought would be helpful would be having committees kind of provide a menu, so to speak, of different ways people could meet that public benefit requirement. And so rather than having a developer come through and say, we're going to put up a welcome to Scarborough sign, and that's going to be our public benefit. It could be trail connectivity. It could be land conservation. It could be additional public EV chargers and things like that. So I think that is an item that the council will be interested in having committees weigh in on and kind of work towards developing and coming up with ideas for what constitutes public benefit, so that there's that the council can reference and also that developers can reference, so that they know kind of what the town is looking for. So that might be another item that we work on developing over the next couple of months in conjunction with Conservation Commission, Transportation Committee, the Housing Alliance may be interested in weighing in on that as well. And just so that there are some ideas that actually would benefit the town. And like I said, not just a sign. And I referenced that because a developer did get a contract zone and their benefit is a welcome to Scarborough sign.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Just, I know this would probably be Transportation Commission committee, but can you put like public transit access
Yep.
on that list?
Absolutely.
Bus shelters and
Elements of resiliency is a public benefit.
contributions to the bus entity to
Expand
something,
service, improve service
yeah,
in Scarborough. Yep, for sure.
I'm not riding the bus anymore, but
Yeah.
so I don't have my ear on that.
I wonder how far of a stretch it would be that a public benefit would be to add solar to Scarborough's public buildings.
I mean, yeah, I'm not sure, because usually it's done in.
Does the benefit have to be impactful to the contract zone area? No, it doesn't, because the sign of welcome to Scarborough had nothing to do with where that contract zone was.
Yeah,
So it's rather broad.
yeah, it is fairly broad. So putting some kind of parameters on it, or at least a list of ideas that would actually benefit Scarborough, perhaps. I mean, I think that in terms of solar on the town's buildings, that one might get sticky because unless we do an assessment of all of our buildings, which we probably should do at some point anyway, just to make sure
10 years ago,
that
but okay.
the roofs are, ready for
Yeah,
solar
but
and things like that.
could it be the establishment of a public benefit fund that could then be used for prescribed measures as determined by whatever council?
I think that the council would be leery of that based on what they've been saying about in lieu fees and impact fees, because there's the impression that those fees are collected and then they may or may not be used in a timely manner. So I think that having discrete
Sounds like a
items.
them problem.
Yeah, I think that's short-sighted, because it may take 2 or 3 years before you have the funding available to do something impactful.
Randy has her hand up.
Go ahead, Randy.
Thank you. So what Conservation Commission has done is put together a large list. So kind of like a menu, so that we're not suggesting that they prescribe these are the specific public benefits that must be taken up for new development. But we do a menu. And as I've thought about this a little bit further, prioritizing that menu to show, these items have high impact, these items have lower impact, and to be able to guide the council or make suggestions of, we want to see more high impact measures that the planning groups decide to undertake and propose to the council or the planning board when moving forward on new development. So we're not right now, we're not thinking about limiting our list. We're just expanding a list. And now our next step is prioritizing and putting some measurement around it, which would include percentages or ratio of impervious surface to open space kind of thing. And then I think our next conversation as a commission might include having a fund of some sort. I don't know all the ups and downs of that. Certainly using a fund as a delay measure would be a concern, but certainly having the town hold funds that it can use for public benefit purposes would be is a great idea.
Some things that I would put on lists like bicycle lane stuff are going to be well beyond any one contract zone.
Yeah.
It could be a huge one, but
So this is a discussion kind of to be continued. I was just really kind of giving you all a heads up that it may appear on our agenda moving forward. And so you
No, I
can
think
start
it's
thinking
an
about it.
awesome thought idea to kind of do that Because that way, those people that are coming before for a contract zone already know what the town's priorities are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that establishes a baseline.
So, and they wouldn't necessarily be required to choose one of those items, but they at least have a sense of what the town is looking for. So,
No, I
And I
like,
think it guides council and whatever other entities are working on that.
Yeah.
To be able to compare the proposal against the list and be like, oh, this is.
and it gives them an out too, because now they don't have to internally within the 7-member group determine what is public benefit.
Yeah.
It's been weighed in by the public.
yeah, by the public, by the advisory committees, and then I feel like it's something that the council would have to endorse or accept. And it's something that the committees can look at on a semi-regular basis to make sure that
Yeah.
it's still relevant, or that other items should or
Those
shouldn't
public
be added to.
benefits should be aligned with our comprehensive plan.
Exactly. Yep. So. That
Yeah,
is,
that was a great outcome from that meeting.
Yeah.
That's, I applaud Jonathan and April for.
yeah, there were a lot of ideas that came forward, and they're like, Jamie, what do you think? What do you think's doable? I'm like, this is number one doable, because this is like exactly why we have our advisory committees. So let's look at coming up with a list of public benefit. That's something that should be able to be taken on and completed within the short term.
And I believe that there's discussion that another or future or even the next Counselor Corner Live would focus on this topic in particular. So getting residential weigh-in and ideas.
Good idea.
Yeah. So we'll keep you informed of developments there. And like I said, it'll probably appear on an upcoming agenda to kind of solidify what the sustainability committee would consider public benefit for that list. So that's all of our old business. So good that people are need to leave early, and we're moving right along.
Yeah, that's super. Appreciate it.
I am going to, if you don't mind, I'd like to bump Scarborough Public Library to the top of our update
Absolutely,
section.
yeah.
So I was contacted by the library last week about involving the sustainability committee in their kind of discussion of what they want to see for a library expansion. So they want to incorporate sustainable elements into that, and they've asked if they can either come to one of our meetings with their designers and consultants, or have a separate meeting with members of this group to kind of talk about ways that they can incorporate or make their building more sustainable. And so a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about through kind of the GMO exemption and other things. I think the library is already doing a fairly good job with that. They do have their solar panels, they've got their EV charger and
They
things like
certainly
that.
have drank the Kool-Aid, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Nancy's on top of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I talked to her, where did I talk to her? Somewhere out, at the last election maybe. And she was asking me exactly this question. I was like, well, your top priority is ensuring that your designer is thinking in this way.
right.
That if you hire a
That
designer
it's not an
that's not
afterthought.
thinking in this way,
Yeah.
then that's very difficult to make these sorts of decisions.
Yeah.
But a designer who's well-versed in
Yeah.
sustainable design is gonna get you a lot closer and a lot quicker
Mhm.
and a lot cheaper.
But
So,
I also recognize it costs money for like the designer to come to a meeting, but I'm thinking that's money well spent. So that they can get from the ground up, build it from the ground up. So I don't think meeting with just individual, I think it should be the committee.
yeah, so they're interested in coming to our next meeting, although it does sound like our next meeting will be modified. So we'd be looking at September at this point.
They're not trying to put anything on referendum or anything this in November for the library, are they?
I don't know how quickly they're planning to move, or how soon they need to have that information in for a
Yeah.
referendum.
Well, you can throw it out there to her, but I certainly support a conversation with the library and their developer.
So, and they were also, she offered up the library as a meeting space, if that's something you're interested in. She did say that they would also Zoom in. So if you got, what's the group's preference, continue to meet here and have them either join us in person or via Zoom, or we can meet down there.
What is
for
the
a meeting.
committee wish?
I would prefer to have the library folks in person if possible,
Mhm.
just because I think that that would be a more robust conversation.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how far away their designer is.
Yeah,
So
and if their designer has to zoom in.
Yeah.
I can understand.
I would see Nancy here in person. I would
Yeah,
expect her to be here in person.
I'm happy to meet at the library. It's not.
I'm all right with that.
Okay,
A room where we can all sit around and talk is all we need.
all right.
Right.
Okay, so we'll plan for our September meeting to be held at the library, and I'll let you know if that timing doesn't work out for Nancy, and then we may need to
Alter that.
have a plan B.
No, perfect.
Great. We don't have much of a town council update because April's not here. I mean, I think her email kind of summarized their timing for the GMO request. Planning board, Angela, do you know if there's anything, or Rick from planning board? You know, Costco's been back in front. That's always a discussion.
Mhm.
We are the next planning board meeting. I think the agenda is either getting posted today, I think, which is another long one, which we haven't had a long one. That's, we have that.
Doesn't mean we have to have one.
Yeah, so there's a lot coming in, so it's gonna be a busy,
Yeah, tis the season now. They're starting to get
Yeah.
the winter stuff going and wanting to,
right, get
Get
something
things going and
solidified
approved, so
before the fall.
they're
right?
looking at next year's build outs.
Yeah.
Yes,
And again, solar ordinance will hopefully be on that agenda for next week,
I sure
a
hope
couple
so.
weeks.
yeah, just with Eric to try to confirm.
I was gonna go down there and see if the packets were available.
I did,
No, I don't really see, as Angela said, it's been kind of little bits and pieces that coming through the planning board, nothing significant. But, in terms of the planning board looking at this stuff, I think we do our due diligence, and it's always nice to have the ordinances to go back to
mhm.
and be supportive of what we need. So, my whole thrust is we've got to keep moving forward with revisions to our ordinances as we go through.
Much to Anton's chagrin, I would say. It
I
doesn't
don't
sound
like
like
to
he's
look
enjoying
back
the
so much all
ordinance
the
stuff.
time. I want to look forward, and that's the vision that we provide the vision.
Well, I've been waiting for this ordinance stuff for a decade, so hooray for us.
So I'm hearing from
We're catching
Eric
up.
that they got it forwarded to them last Thursday. And so he was thinking the 3-week window was not meant, that he didn't put on the agenda. But I can talk to him a little bit about that. We'd have to get notices out. Public notices is the problem, is making sure we have enough time to get that out. What would that do to your window or timing if it had to slide to the second meeting in August, I guess?
I think it
Well,
would-
let's see, meeting in August, this coming,
So
would
maybe-
not get to the town council again.
until the third week in September.
So we could do it in the September meeting if we then go out of planning board and it gets on the agenda for the town council in their
Because
September.
they're not, because they're only meeting once in August, council,
Right,
right? So that's what I'm asking, if the planning board heard it.
if we heard it Monday, then would it be ready for the August town council meeting?
You would or would?
No, if we meet on the 8th, right?
Yes.
And then town council in August meets when?
On the 17th, I think.
So it would be ideal to have it at the 8th board meeting, because we wouldn't see it until the 29th, which means it wouldn't go until the September.
Right, okay. Let me just verify too that it would even be able to get on the 17th agenda, because I know their council's July agenda, where they're meeting once a month. Um,
Yeah, I was there until 11
Yeah,
to speak to.
exactly.
I saw the parking lot.
Yeah.
So, boy, I'm
Yeah.
not doing it there.
Yeah, I walked up and it was a full room. I'm like, I'm gonna Zoom this one.
I was coming
And
back from doing a game and I saw the parking lot. She said, oh, no, I'm stopping in to see where they are.
Yeah, no, they didn't get to
So
solar
let me
until
verify a few
10:30.
things.
Yeah.
One, that we have time to get notice out, to get it on the agenda for the 8th. And secondly, if with that, there's room on the council agenda to put it on the 17th. Because if they're gonna tell us you're not gonna be on the 17th.
Then it doesn't make any
then it
sense to
doesn't
jump
make
through
sense.
hoops.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And stress Eric out, because it's a little mess.
Well, the other thing that came out of the planning board is we heard there was a new planner on the horizon. So,
Yes, so that has been officially announced.
Oh, it has?
Did at council, so now I can tell everybody, August 22nd, Autumn Spears is her name. She is coming from Texas. And she will be starting. So, I know the week before the planning, so she would not be at the planning board until the September meeting. So,
Well, she starts on the 22nd. Planning board would be on the 29th, isn't it?
no, it's the week before, I think Eric's at. Oh, wait.
I think
the
it's the 20.
8th would be the 29th is
Oh,
the
yeah.
planning board.
Oh, I think he was thinking of, never mind, he was thinking something on the 8th, but you're right, so she would be there for the 29th planning board meeting. You're right.
Well, if she's in the neighborhood and she wants to stop by the joint meeting that we have on the 15th, if we meet on the 15th, she's more than welcome to. But then we'll look for her, we welcome her to,
Well, you do have to stay, oh, so you're not meeting on the.
We won't meet on the 24th,
Okay.
most likely,
right? If we can move to the 15th and do a joint with,
Yeah.
with
with conservation.
Randy's crew.
So if this ends up going before planning board on the 29th, it will then go back to council on September 21st.
But that's it.
And then that's it.
Okay, we can deal with it. We can live with that.
I don't know that it would make it for the
We have to.
7th, would it?
Well, that's the same timing. If you said we did the 8th, you'd want it on the 17th, you'd have to have it to toady the packet by that Friday. It's the same time.
I mean, it's really a matter of when the planning board minutes are available, because that's what they look to.
Yeah.
or
so
if
the
there's a
timing
memo.
Would be the same though. It would be your meeting on
That's true.
Monday. and
Yeah, I
Wednesday.
don't know how much time, I don't know how long it takes between planning board and I think the last time we did it, it was a longer time period, just naturally.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if, meeting on a Monday and then the following Wednesday, it would be able to be on the agenda.
Well, we've waited this long,
Just as soon as you can.
Yeah, but the sooner the better, obviously, because you never know. Well, I don't know what the planning board's gonna see.
But to that point, if their meeting minutes are done, they're not voted on by the planning board. So
Oh, and you
does that-
can't use minutes that are not
So
approved
does
yet.
that matter?
I don't know
Is
if,
that
I
what
can't
the
remember
delay was last
if a
time?
memo was written or not. I can't remember the process.
Well,
It just kind of.
whatever the process
can
is,
figure it out,
step through it
yeah.
as quickly as you can.
So
And it will be-
staff will try to figure out the details, how that works. Because you'll have the vote from planning board, right? So. And the
We'll have the
conversation's
recommendation
recorded,
from planning board.
and there's a recording of that, which
Yeah.
council has been watching. When things come back in front of them to say, oh, we watched the planning board meeting, so
Yeah.
I think that's helpful.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. All right, well, we'll leave it up to you guys.
It's so nice to have staff involved. in
Well,
these
it's so nice to have the
meetings.
staff we have.
Goodness. Yes.
And I think we did a Conservation Commission update based on kind of the
We were
Downs
there.
GMO. And yeah, you guys were at the June meeting. They did meet in July. But I don't know that we have any other update to share from Conservation Commission. So unless there are any other items, we blew through this agenda,
Well, that's good. And
which is good because half of everyone was like, I need to leave early. So that worked out well.
yeah, and it gives you an extra half an hour in your day to start
Just
drafting. a
Start
letter.
drafting that, yeah.
I just always want to remind us that beginning the process for another project is on the list somewhere.
Mhm.
Those solar projects were supposed to be test cases. And if it worked, we were supposed to move forward. There was a list of buildings.
Mhm.
So, yeah, someday we should do something.
I am doing things.
I know. I don't mean that we're not, but I mean like a tangible, like actually making,
Yeah, and I agree. I will say though, ordinances tend to be more far reaching
That's
than
true.
our
That's
individual projects that we're
Yeah.
doing here, so.
And they're a lot of impactful, other ways are impacted by ordinances.
Definitely.
but there is still progress to be made on town-owned facilities.
Mhm.
Ron or Tom, I don't want to ignore those in the virtual land. Do you have any comments or thoughts?
This is Ron. I don't have anything on that. I think everything sounded good, but I did see Jamie's name in I think the paper about the Scarborough Marsh. So nice article. Good job.
Oh, thank you. I'll have to go look for that. I didn't realize that was in there.
Indeed. We'll all look for that.
Go, Jamie. Thank you for all that you do. I don't.
Sure.
mean to
No,
imply
I
that we're
know.
not doing it.
Then that's the agenda.
That's the
And I would
agenda.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Vote by standing.
All right,
Thank you all. I will
Thank
let
you.
you know about August 15th.
perfect.